Hello everyone, welcome back to the AEC Studio. In our previous lesson, we explored the different types and modes of communication such as verbal, non-verbal, formal and informal communication. But have you ever noticed something interesting? Sometimes we speak clearly, yet people misunderstand us. Sometimes we listen but still fail to understand the message correctly. Why does this happen? It happens because of barriers to communication. Today, we will learn what communication barriers are, the different types of barriers, and how they affect effective communication. So, let's begin. What are barriers to communication? Barriers to communication are obstacles or problems that prevent the message from being understood properly. These barriers create confusion, misunderstanding, and lack of clarity between the sender and the receiver. In simple words, a barrier is anything that blocks effective communication. Why do communication barriers happen? Okay, communication barriers can happen due to various reasons, and these are lack of attention, noise or disturbance, wrong choice of words, emotional stress, language differences, poor listening habits. Because of these barriers, the receiver may understand a different meaning from what the speaker actually wanted to say. All right. So, types of barriers to communication. Now, let us study the main types of communication barriers one by one. The first one is physical barriers. Physical barriers are obstacles present in the surroundings or environment. These barriers make communication difficult because the message cannot be heard or received properly. For example, loud noise, poor internet connection, long distance, disturbance in classroom or office, faulty microphone or speaker. Now, easy examples, if two people are talking on the phone and the network keeps breaking, communication becomes difficult. This is a physical barrier. Then comes language barriers. Now, language barriers happen when people do not understand the language, words, or meanings properly. This causes different languages, different vocabularies, poor pronunciation, grammar mistakes, use of technical words. One of the easy example can be if a teacher uses very difficult English words, some students may not understand the lesson properly. This is called a language barrier. This next is the psychological or emotional barriers. These barriers are related to emotions, feelings, and mental state. When a person is angry, stressed, nervous, or sad, communication becomes less effective. Or examples like fear, anxiety, lack of confidence, anger, stress, as I mentioned earlier, also. Uh, These are the ones, few causes. For example, if a student feels nervous during a presentation, they may forget what they wanted to say. This is a psychological barrier. After this is Cultural barriers. So, cultural barriers happen because people from different cultures may think, behave, or communicate differently. Okay, the reasons can be different traditions, different beliefs, different ways of speaking or greeting, right? Example, a hand gesture that is polite in one culture may be considered rude in another culture. Next is the interpersonal barriers. Interpersonal barriers happen because of poor relationships or lack of trust between people. The examples can be not listening carefully, interrupting others, lack of teamwork, negative attitude. For example, if two classmates are angry with each other, they may stop listening properly during a discussion. Now, barriers caused by poor listening. Communication is not only about speaking, good listening is equally important. Sometimes people hear the words but do not pay attention to the meaning. Okay. Uh, for example, suppose your friend says, please submit the assignment tomorrow morning. But due to lack of attention, you understand it as next week. This misunderstanding happens because of poor listening. Effects of communication barriers. Now, communication barriers can create mainly problems such as misunderstanding, as we just saw in the example, confusion, mistakes in work, conflicts between people, loss of confidence, poor relationships. Yeah. Now, how to overcome communication barriers? Sorry. Now, let us see how we can reduce communication barriers. The key tips here are listen carefully, use simple language, maintain eye contact, avoid distraction, stay calm and confident, ask questions if something is unclear, be respectful while communicating. Now, let's see the importance of removing barriers. When barriers are reduced, communication becomes clear, people understand each other better, relationships improve, teamwork becomes stronger, confidence increases. So, to conclude, communication barriers are obstacles that prevent messages from being understood properly. These barriers may be physical, language related, emotional, cultural, or interpersonal. By improving our listening, speaking, and understanding skills, we can communicate more effectively and avoid misunderstandings. Thank you for joining today's session at the AEC Studio. I am Asha. If you found this lesson helpful, please subscribe to the channel and give a thumbs up. See you in the next lesson. Happy learning.